Well, day 2 of my bacon and eggs. Yesterday was an absolute disaster. Probably brought on through lack of prep. So I spent far too long in the Caribbean on somebody else's boat when I was expecting that to be a week, but I think it was about 3. And I prioritised kit because I'm going to be offshore extended periods of times alone. I wanted to make sure I had everything on board that was required for safety and would be useful in terms of tools and all those kind of things. Loads of electrics, loads of provisioning, everything you could think of, spare washers, nuts, extra tools, blah blah blah. What I didn't do is spend enough time with the boat to get familiar with it. I took it out for a test sail before I bought the boat, and then the only other time I went out was just to practice picking up mooring boards to feel how the engine worked and manoeuvrability, those kind of things, for an hour. So in between that time, I think definitely the slugs, which are the sliders on the mainsail, were salted up and dry. Absolutely nothing, not a problem at all. But because it was so feisty yesterday, really feisty, it was expected to be 20 knots and it was 35. It was force 8, massive chaotic sea, being pushed around all over the place. I wasn't sure because the boat's absolutely overloaded with kit everywhere, and I haven't got a system yet. I'm kind of like, okay, electrics going here, tools going here, materials going here, blah blah blah. But because I'm buying extra kit and putting it, it's all chaotic, and I can't remember where I've put everything. So, and the self-steering was slipping. I'll talk about that in a second. Cold bacon and eggs. So I just didn't have time, being in the Thames Estuary where you've got to navigate. There was 15 course changes I needed to do over 45 miles, and as I think most people know, you've got to listen to this, there's a lot of shallows and stuff, so you've got to keep your wits about you. I couldn't go down deck and take cupboards apart and look for the silicon, so I thought, right, forget the mainsail, I'll bring out the Genoa. It's a really big Genoa, it's probably a little bit oversized, and the foot of the sail touches the deck, which means it kind of interferes with the safety lines, and it doesn't have a very great trim. So as I'm pulling it out, I'm thinking, oh god, the foot's all over the place. I can't remember it being that bad, so I carried on pulling it out, thinking if I bring the car back, the Traveller, to set it better and crank on the winch, I can get a better sail shape. Then I noticed actually that the halyard had slipped, and it was probably 2 or 3 feet lower than it should have been. So I'm cranking on the halyard, it's got nothing. It must be a knot or a twist in the rope in the car, probably at the top of the mast or something like that. So I couldn't actually get that sorted. So I thought, okay, I either turn back or I carry on under engine. And it was spicy this time, and I couldn't keep the boat into the wind because of the self-steering and stuff, so I was just getting flapped all over the place. It wasn't enjoyable at all. So I decided to fill it in, go under engine, and it wouldn't fill. When it did fill, and because it was so low, it was getting wrapped around the furler, I must have gone up 5 or 6 times to get it all wrapped on the furler. Again, getting blown around all over the place. It was just an absolute nightmare. So I thought, just get it in as far as you can and sort it out the next day. But the wind kept catching it, kept coming undone. So it was a constant battle to go up there with the autopilot slipping, which meant it was spinning around in circles. It was just absolutely horrible. So I just the best I can. I eventually got a bungee on it to kind of stop it from flapping so much. And then just fought for probably about 7 hours. It really picked up about 1 o'clock, and I knew if the wind didn't die down, anchoring was probably not going to be an option, although I was prepared to try it just to get some confidence that the anchor was going to hold, even though I wouldn't have got a good night's sleep. I want to test the anchor. So I tried that off Viking Bay just before the cliffs, about 300-400 metres off, 6 metres of depth. So because it was a southwesterly, I was thinking that would give me a little bit of shade, but the swell was just massive. it was literally just still, what, 20% heel from side to side rapidly in a quick succession. So it would just be a nightmare. It's not tenable. So obviously I looked at the next nearest marina, which was Ramgate. I called them on the telephone, and they said, well, you better get here by 7 o'clock because everybody goes home, because I did explain that I'm single sailor, I need help with the lines. When I got here about 7:15, there was nobody to help me anyway. I hadn't had any berthing instructions, and that's when I realised as I came in. But I thought, okay, I'll do my old trick where I'm steering both rudders with the wind vane, holding it behind me and on the tiller, and obviously trying to navigate and use the throttle at the same time. But the locking pin had come out, so that was just free floating, and because the secondary rudder is on the back, that affects your steering. So what was then happening was I could barely steer within the marina. I didn't know where I was going. There seems to be 2 marinas. I went to the wrong one, which seems to be the commercial place. Had a bit of a nightmare trying to turn around, but I did without bashing anything. And then I was very lucky that there was one pontoon berth free right at the entrance. So away from most of the boats, there was a couple. And I got close to it, and then I realised that the wind was going to blow me straight onto the dock. So being as I'd got 4 fenders out, I just drifted gently onto the dock and stepped off like a boss and tied up. But it was an extremely rocky night, really rolly and noisy, fender squeak and rope squeak. However, I've made it through. So today I've tidied up the boat. I'll show you some photographs of what the boat looked like. Things are falling out of the cupboards all over the place. I've lost track of how many things went wrong. I broke my glasses. I'm aching all over. My hands are aching because I was grabbing the wheel so much. I've hurt my coccyx because I got slammed back against the back of the boat. I hit my head twice. You might see I've got a cut here, which I think I did in the morning when I hit the car. But anyway, and I really don't know what I'm going to do with the Genoa. The mainsail I can sort out. The Genoa, I don't know. I might need to go up the mast, but I've never done that before and I don't really want to.
And then the other thing, my electronics. I've got 2 phones, both charged, but they were barely usable because there was so much water. I mean, I was soaked head to toe, absolutely drenched. Even my undies were wet, soaking. When it didn't rain at all. There were moisture logs, so when I tried to touch the screen, they just wouldn't use it, so I couldn't center anything out and stuff. I did eventually, but it was hard work. I had to run down and get a towel to try and clean it all the time. But the batteries were good. Phones these days don't have replaceable batteries. It's really annoying. So I've got 2 power banks, and it was just keeping it on 20% the whole time, even though I had them in the hand being charged. I just can't get power into the phones, both of them. So I've got to go out and buy a cheap phone again, and try and find one with a replaceable battery, I think. And probably buy a second battery for it, and a better power bank, because I think my power banks have been cracked to death. So a bit of a ramble. So I might be here more than one day. I didn't even want to be in a marina. I wanted to be at anchor, but you know, you've got to be sensible about it. I was lucky to get in last night before dark, and you know, there's no way I could have anchored. So waiting for better wind and see what the next day's break. Hej då, which is Swedish for bye.
Okay, after my bacon and eggs, I've come up with a plan. According to Windy, which I don't trust very much at all, it's pretty benign on Tuesday. I need less wind because I've got to get the Genoa down and it'll be flapping around all over the place. So my plan is to go to the yacht club, which is de rigueur when you come into a marina, buy somebody a pint and see if they'll help me get it down and sort it out. I mean, I could do it on my own probably, but it's just easy with 2. So I've got a day in Ramsgate, do some provisioning, buy a phone and bloody other bits and pieces, and bloody. Okay. Well, what do you know? One of the first people I speak to at the marina is a guy that I just asked for the Wi-Fi password. Got chatting to him. Turns out he's a carbon copy of myself. Made a very similar journey across the Thames estuary a couple of weeks ago. Well, exactly 2 weeks ago, from Burnham upon Sea. He was out for 48 hours and had to call the Coast Guard. He had similar problems with sails. He's made some engineering mistakes. He's an engineer by trade. And he decides to put an electric motor at the back with all the heavy batteries at the front and places solar panels at the front, which has affected the trim. So he battled as much as he could, but tiredness got him eventually, and he had to get the Coast Guard in, and he's been here for 2 weeks making modifications to his boat. But he's been helping me with the sail. He's got a better engineering background than I have, and he's going to help me with the self-steering, which may need an upgrade or something, who knows. Because we both had our asses kicked and we realise how much it takes it out of you when you're fighting the elements and the sails in your boat so much, that we're getting fit. So we go for a run and a swim every morning. So he's been a really great guy to bounce ideas off, and somebody who's experiencing the same trials and tribulations as myself. So yeah, I'll keep you updated. See you soon.